Welcome, everybody, to the Dexterous Lifestyle podcast with your co-hosts, Andrea and Kelli of Dexterous Organizing Dexterous Lifestyle. And today we are graciously introducing Dan Barone of Feel Good Coaching. And when I first heard what Dan does and how he does it, I knew he had to be on our podcast for our listeners. So Dan, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and to be able to talk with you about really getting into the meat of who we are and how that works. So I am a life coach. I'm a transformational life coach. What does that even mean, right? What does that do? I work with people as, I would say the best analogy would be like a travel guide. And see, where are you right now? Where do you want to go? And how can I help you on your journey there? Right? It's taking apart your belief. I would not say destroying or deconstructing, but looking at your belief systems and exploding them, really going, how do these parts, these truths, these beliefs of what I've come to believe to be true make up the identity of who I am? What does that mean for me in my life and how I interact with others and myself in the world? Really learning how to create the life that you want to live.
Based on who you are. I love that.
In a world filled with chaos, we try our best to create a balanced lifestyle. We love to be productive, but we also love to rest. We love to be efficient, but not at the cost of our peace. There is a direct correlation between our habits and our happiness.
The Dexterous Lifestyle is meant for those of us who live hectic lives, but with the right tools, information, and resources, we can strive for order, peace, health, wealth, and calm. It's not too much to ask. We deserve a dexterous mind, a dexterous body, and plenty of dexterous spaces to support our dexterous lifestyle. Awesome. So, as Dan already mentioned, the wonderful things that he does with his life coaching. And one of the reasons why I thought it would be a wonderful idea to hear his message is because when we work with our clients, a lot of times we're having to reinforce that their way of doing things, if it's working, is okay. The definition of being organized is finding what you need when you need it. But they've gotten so much negative feedback from someone who maybe organizes differently from them. They may, and I'm very much a person like that. I have everything out because I like to see things, because if it's put away, I will not find it again. Or it's like, did I put it here or did I put it here? I need to see it. And so it's a balancing act for me because what's out needs to be important as a reminder, but if everything's out, nothing's now important. So if everything's important, nothing is important, right? So it is that balancing act. But for our clients who may have that same tendency, they may live with someone or grew up around someone who just likes everything put away. And so, and
yes, that's me too. But here's the importance, though. Even when you have everything put away, you need to know where it is.
Where it is.
You can be a putter awayer and your drawers and your closets be in chaos, but everything looks pristine on the outside. So there's still that need for organization and getting your head in it to figure out a system that works for you.
Exactly. I just saw on Instagram, it was this thing where a husband's coming, he puts his keys and his iPod and his glasses or whatever on the kitchen counter, and it's like, this is how I put things so that I remember where they are. And then he walks away. Then his wife comes, opens the door, everything and closes it.
Amazing. That's me.
Yep. Oh,
for
years. Sure. Absolutely.
So what really try to help people to understand is really organization isn't cookie cutter. It's about finding what you need when you need it, being efficient in doing so. And so in our kind of training with our clients and coaching with them in that way, there is this piece that they're going to come into contact with, which we all come in contact with, but it's going to especially happen in the journey to getting more organized, is negative self-talk and the critic of, oh, I'll never be able to be better organized. This is who I am. This is, I'm this way. And my mom already told me I was messy, so I'm going to always be this way. And it's like deconstructing that, like you said. So
I love to call them me myths, because that's what they are. They're myths about yourself. Me myths. Throw them away.
No, you are so right, and that's one of those things. Actually, you hit on something earlier, Andrea and Kelly. You're so on with the myth thing. You're talking about engaging, right, with this level of belief that they have. Maybe they have a system already. Your clients have a system that keeps, hey, I know where things are. It might not be as organized as person X does it, and they're telling me I have to change, but this works for me. Well, we are all individual, right? But these me myths, right? I might be jumping the gun here, but yeah, this whole inner critic stuff, this is the core of what I do in becoming empowered, right? We all have some type of inner voice, right? This inner voice is installed when we are young. It's either through behavior modeling, it's through conditioning, it's through programming. What we're seeing around us in society, right, programs us. What we see in our family dynamic programs us. All the behaviors modeled to us teach us about the world. They teach us about life. They teach us about what is okay, what isn't okay, what's appropriate or not, and how to behave as a human being in a social environment. So this idea of a right and wrong is a complete myth. It's based on a lot of times on our upbringing, and it's not to demonize our parents at all. They're doing the best that they can with the tools that they have, but recognizing within ourselves that a lot of the things we hold to be true may be complete fallacies that we just believe strong enough. And that's really what my work is about, is diving into those belief systems. They're called limiting belief systems or a fixed mindset. There are many names for it, but these things that we believe about ourselves or about the world that hold us back from being able to create and achieve what we want. It's that light switch that comes on, and when we realize, wait a second, I can actually choose to be happy. I can choose to have what I want. I don't have to be held back, or that inner critic going, you're not good enough. You're worthless. You're never going to get this. You're always going to be this way, right? That's not us. That's not us at all. That's the voice of someone else that we've adopted as our own. So learning how to essentially divorce that voice, to separate the two identities. And then how do we put that voice outside on the porch, right? That's not welcome in my house anymore. Get out of here. But the key is what we engage, right? What we engage with becomes that consistent voice, right? Do we want to re-engage with that voice, or do we want to install a new voice that's empowering, that lifts us up and helps us? The key, again, we got to engage with that over and over and over to give it strength and start to rewire our brain on what voice do we want to listen to.
Yeah. That's so powerful, because that inner critic can arrest any kind of development.
Yes, it can.
And the inner critic sometimes is so cruel that we would never in a million years speak to another person
ever
the way that inner voice speaks to us.
Ever. That's one of the things I actually do with my clients when we're going through this portion of my program, is to actually take awareness of it, to write down some of the things that your inner critic says to you. But the key for me is to not just what it is. What's the tone of voice that your inner critic uses, right? What tone of voice do you hear when that talk? For me, it was very scornful. It was deriding. It was this like, Dan, you're a piece of shit, right? This type of just really negative tone. And I was like, wait a second. Would I ever talk to another human being that way? Would I ever accept being talked to this way? So why is that okay for me to talk to myself this way? Like, with that? And so really what it was kind of coming and doing some healing work with my inner child and going, hey, Danny, like kind of naming my inner child, my childhood name. I was like, Danny, it's okay. Like, you're doing the best you can. Especially one of the things you said earlier that I loved is this: where you are now is a product of your past actions, right? Your past self doing this, but also is going to set up your future self too. So like appreciating younger me going like, hey, I don't think any of us willfully do things that are going to put us in a bad situation, right? We're acting under the best knowledge that we have to try and create a good thing. We go, hey, I'm going to do this because I think this is the best course of action to achieve X. And then maybe things go sideways and it's like, okay, well, past me, instead of being like, man, I mess up all the time. Hey, thank you for trying, because now I have the knowledge and experience of going through that. So future me is going to be even better because I'm going to learn and continue to grow. We're experiential learners. We have to learn and kind of mess it up. There is no perfect or right way or good way. We're just kind of fumbling through, figuring it out as we go. And I think when that realization dawned, right, and I was like, oh, it's not only that there aren't any answers to the test, there's not even a test in the first place. All of this pressure I'm feeling, I'm putting on myself. What if I didn't do that? And it sounds silly, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we
Oh my goodness.
dive into what you do, but Dan, tell us, how did you start this? Like, where did this passion come from that catapulted you into this, helping people and guiding them?
Well, thank you, Kelly. I will try to keep this part short. So I grew up in it was a very autocratic household, I would say with a very religious background. Neither of those things are bad necessarily in and of themselves, but just the way that I grew up was basically knowing that I am not good enough on my own. My dad was a great proponent of conditional love. And I'm not trying to demonize the guy. He tried the best he could. He was very traumatized. Our parents all have their own issues, right? Nobody is perfect. And this is not the goal to be perfect. It's to just be better than you were yesterday. And I think a lot of the generational traumas get put on you, like my kids. I'm realizing, oh man, I've done some stuff that I don't like. Let me go acknowledge this, apologize, and then work to heal it together. That didn't happen for me until much, much later. So when I grew up essentially having to perform to be worthy of connection, right? To do something to be worthy of that love. If I didn't follow the rules, right, I wouldn't be connected. If I didn't do what I was told, I would see separation. And also the religious backing of this very Christian type of conditional love. I'm not knocking religion here. This is not I've met some wonderful, wonderful believers in Christ who are just so heart-centered and come at this from a place of whole love. This was not that. This was essentially, there's something wrong with me. I need to be something I'm not in order to be connected, right? I see that in the archetype of the Father. I see that now in the archetype of God in that whole sense. So I grew up with a really toxic self-perception. My inner critic was beating the ever-loving crap out of me. And I spent most of my teens and 20s in a really dark place. It was, actually a lot of suicidal ideation. I wondered if I might not even make it to tomorrow. So kind of working through this, I followed all the instructions of society, right? All that programming of happiness exists outside of you. You need to obtain this and then you'll be happy, right? It's this whole achievement-based mindset, which isn't a bad thing. Again, I'm not knocking it in and of itself, but coming from an unhealthy place, right? From a very codependent background, boy, I, got a high-paying job, selling cars. I got married, had kids, got a house, nice car, all of this stuff, right? On the surface, my life was really good because I had all this stuff. I was miserable. I hated myself and I just wasn't happy. That was, I would say, the core of what I do is dealing with this epidemic of unhappiness, right? I'm not happy and I don't know why. How do I fix it? And ultimately, I fell into some substance abuse problems with alcohol and my life pretty much imploded. I lost everything, got divorced, lost my job, house, all of that, and was faced with that moment of truth where I really was at a place where I wanted to die. And I kind of had this out of body experience where I looked at myself and I saw a path and I go, okay, there's a fork in the road. Option A, the left path leads down the road I've been traveling on. I know where that goes and it's not good. Option B, the right fork. I haven't been down that. It's a little scary, but that road is to get help. And I want to try that. It's beyond me what I can do. So I took that, and thankfully, I have an incredible support system around me. And then this therapist I started working with is such a beautiful man. Like, I love him to pieces. And he is such an incredible force for good in my life and in others. So I committed to two things when I started going to therapy. One was I was going to be honest with myself and then with him as my travel guide, in the sense, the role that I now hold. And that's really hard, to be honest with yourself. It is. We lie to ourselves. We're masters at lying to ourselves. Being honest, and this is part of that journey, is journaling, right? It is showing myself what I really think and then what I thought in the past. The second part was doing the work, actually committing to doing the work. And, over a few years of going into this really intensive therapy, cognitive behavioral is the background. And I just found that worked for me. But many other types of therapy are great because everybody's different, right? So I really did this work of healing that relationship with my inner child and ended up reconciling with my dad before he died, which was really cool to kind of have that full circle. So the reason I bring that up is because that's how I got started in here. I was in the financial services industry helping people save for retirement. Reconciled with my dad. He got diagnosed with cancer and died really quickly at age 67, right? Most people are retiring about that time. I'm helping people save for retirement. I'm like, cool, I want to approach this, from a standpoint of education and holistically. And wow, okay, earth-shaking moment. America teaches us sacrifice now, be happy later, right? You can suffer now, you can have your happiness when you retire. He didn't get his retirement. And many of us don't get that. Many of us, I would say, I see it in my friends, right? We'll have tragedies that strike unexpectedly, right? Nobody plans to get cancer. Nobody plans to have an aneurysm, right? Things happen. So what are we doing? And so he died, and it really hit me. I saw this card pass me on the way home. It had a bumper sticker that said, "Don't postpone joy." And that really it stopped me. And I'm like, right, because we're meant to enjoy life. It's not all going to be roses and sunshine, but let's take out the top 10 and bottom 10%, the outliers. Where's that 80% of your life lived? Where's that needle pointing? Is it positive or negative? And if you're not happy with the answer, you want to change that. And so I ended up finding my ways. Like, this is what I need to do, is share this lesson essentially that I've learned the hard way myself with other people. And if my truth of being present and prioritizing joy and acting with intention, if my truth can help other people discover their own, because they're all going to be different, right? But if my truth can help them discover their own, then there's no other thing that I want to do. So that is how I found myself into this sphere in the wellness, in the coaching field.
That is awesome. Yeah.
The origin story. I always call it. We're all superheroes, especially when we're impacting other people's lives. And we like comic book superheroes have an origin story. I always like to hear other people's.
Yes. Well,
I'm a super nerd, so I love that reference. Yeah.
Hey, we can be whatever superhero we want, whoever superhero we have, it's still super.
I love it.
So a couple of things that resonated with me and came up for me when you were talking, one about kind of how we get messages as we're younger. And I guess I spent a lot of time on Instagram. Note to self. It was like a father and a son, they're watching a football game or some type of sports game. And the son is like so small, he's in diapers. So he's watching the game with his dad. And then something happens on the screen. Apparently the team scores. And the son goes, yeah! And his dad goes, oh! And then the son looks over at his dad, and then he goes, oh! So he was like, somebody scored. We normally cheer for this. But then he was like, oh, it was the wrong team, according to dad.
Right.
So it was, who we cheer for is a personal matter. We typically, we have a lot of people who cheer for a certain team because their family has.
I was indoctrinated. My whole family's from the greater Boston area. My dad was a sports broadcaster. I was indoctrinated. You cheer for these teams. So, of course,
Right.
Yeah.
So the same can carry over into, our routines, our habits, why we do certain things. Oh, we're not going to do this in this house, or, you have to do this, this type of way in this house. So when you kind of, branch off, then you have that voice and those inner critics telling you, on top of all the other things that I have going on, I can't leave laundry on the floor for more than a day. It just,
Well,
Or what kind of person am I? I'm a horrible
absolutely.
person if I do that, because that's
Andrew,
what we're
you're
taught.
right. You're right. And that's the thing is all of this talk is so unconscious, right? All of these programming, this modeling of hate, all of these things are programmed into us on a subconscious level. They're driving us without us being even close to aware of it. And so what you were talking about at the beginning, right, was with your clients realizing, again, this identity, right, of like, hey, does this work for me, right? The first step is to become aware, because if we are not aware of it, then we can't hope to change it or even to understand it. So that awareness of what drives me to do this, right? Is this compulsion or this, like this, I find when we're acting out of integrity with ourselves, right? With making decisions that don't line up with our values and principles, it creates this dissonance, right? This discord within us. It's just like, I'm irritable, I'm angry, or I'm just frustrated, and I can be, like lash out to people that are close to me, or, oh, but if I'm acting in integrity with myself and making decisions that line up with those things, the values and principles that I have, wow, I'm generally a much more pleasant person to be around. So why don't I do more of that? And then it kind of dives in a little further. Why do I do that? What is the cause of this? And starting to explore what makes me me, right? What are these belief systems that comprise the identity of Dan, right? What have I built this identity around? And I think the biggest question here is, do these belief systems serve me? Does this serve the person that I want to be and to become? Because we can, if we want, reclaim our agency over that and say, I want to be X. Right? I want to be kind, caring, compassionate, organized in my own way, right? And this idea of creating what we wish to become. We're not pre-programmed, right? Our past does not dictate our future. My story is unwritten. The prologue, right, that I've already lived is not an indicator of what I will be. And I think that's the coolest thing, is when we kind of have that light bulb and go, oh, I control the narrative. Right. Yes, you do. Everything becomes open and the pressure comes off, because what's there to feel pressured about? You can write whatever story you want.
You can. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's powerful. Dan, I'm so excited that you are offering a free 45-minute discovery call.
I am.
To anyone who wants to dive a little deeper and see what all of this intentionality and everything you've talked about is about. And really kind of journeying forward, because what the intention of our creating Dexterous Lifestyle is helping people through the journey to get organized. But we know through experience and through seeing it that it's going to start uncovering a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so we want to help as much as we can, stay in our lane, and send our clients to and our community to people like you who can really dive in there with them and figure those things that, as they're pulling their stuff out, they're also pulling out internal things that need to be addressed.
The physical, it's remarkable to me how often the physical will represent what's going on internally, right? The emotional and the mental, you could call it spiritual, whatever, but it does represent that. And I find, very much like you, as we're going through some internal stuff, that manifests itself in the physical. So I know the stay in your lane, I know was a joke, but realistically, we are all collective. We're part of this collective, right? We're all trying to raise that level together. So whatever form it takes. Again, I'm a certain flavor, right? Just like you guys are a certain flavor. Hey, if you like butter pecan, great, I'm your guy. If you don't, cool. I have a network of wellness professionals and coaches, and maybe you like black raspberry. Great, let me send you over there. It's all about fit and flavor, right? Who's the right person to work with so-and-so, right? Work with you guys, work with me. That's the beauty of having so many in this wellness space, right? Is because there's a person for everybody. There's a person for whatever your fit is. And I love that you approach this, again, from a very holistic standpoint of, hey, what's right for you, right? That's so it helps people feel seen, helps people feel heard, and then causes them to go, hey, I want to take some space for me, right? I don't want to give my power away anymore. I want to reclaim that. I want to hold my own space. And that's so powerful. So yeah, I would absolutely be happy. I'd be thrilled to talk with anybody who wants to have one of those, 45-minute discovery calls, it's completely free. Basically, I kind of put you through a little travel guide idea that I do with myself is, where are you? Where are your pain points? Where do you want to go? And how do we get there?
Awesome. Well, if you're
so much.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much for having me. This has been amazing.
Also, if you're looking at the bottom of the screen, you see Dan's contact information. You can find him on TikTok and IG at My Feel Good Coaching. And we'll have the information also in the show notes. Thanks so much again, Dan. And for those of us who are looking for more peace, calm, and organization in your life, remember to find your dexterous
Lifestyle.
lifestyle.